So many years later, after the original Shining, we get a sequel to The Shining. But is it as good as The Shining, or is it not worth staying away from? I'm gonna tell you right now, this is worth seeing. Alright guys, so this is going to be my review for Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, which is a sequel to The Shining. And this is based on the 2013 novel of the same name by Stephen King. This is directed by Mike Flanagan, stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, Cliff Curtis, Emily Allen Lynn, Bruce Greenwood. And this movie sets decades after the events of The Shining, and it combines elements from the first movie and the 1977 novel of the same name directed by Stanley Kubrick, which Stephen King does not like that the Stanley Kubrick version of The Shining. But this is written and edited by Mike Flanagan, and we are dealing with a young Danny Torrance, and yes, he is now older and with psychic abilities, and he is struggling with the childhood trauma that happened to him as a kid, and he's still irrevocably scarred by the trauma that he endured as a child at the Overlook Hotel. Danny Torrance has fought to find some semblance of peace in his life, but the peace is shattered when he encounters Abra, who is a courageous teenager with her own powerful extrasensory gift known as the Shining. Instantly recognizing that Dan shares the same power as her, Abra has sought him out, desperate for his help against the merciless Rose the Hat and her followers of the True Knot, who feed off the shine of innocence in their quest for immortality. Forming an unlikely alliance, Dan and Abra engage in a brutal life-or-death battle with Rose. Abra's innocence and fearless embrace of her shine compels Dan to call upon his own powers as never before, as once facing his fears and reawakening the ghosts of his past. The plot of this movie is very interesting here because it's picking up where the first movie left off, while also going into its own direction. And I'm gonna say, when it comes to Dr. Sleep, I was interested in it because it's Stephen King, and I am a Stephen King nerd, and recently over the last few years, Stephen King movies has made a comeback so far, with the 2017 It, and then It Chapter 2 early back in September, and then Gerald's Game 1922, and then the remake of Pet Sematary, which I'm in the minority on that movie. I actually like the new Pet Sematary more than the old one. And so when it comes to this movie, I was interested to see how it would turn out because of the cast of Rebecca Ferguson and Ewan McGregor, and then the director himself, Mike Flanagan. And Mike Flanagan, he is a pretty overlooked horror director of this decade. People talk about Ari Aster, people Jordan Peele, but Mike Flanagan doesn't get enough credit. He made some great movies. I love Oculus with Karen Gillan and Brenton Thwaites. I thought that was a really great underrated movie of this decade. Also, I gotta say, Gerald's Game was really great for him to do, and Hush was another good horror movie. And I actually really love Ouija Origin of Evil. To me, that is the first Ouija movie. So, going into this movie, I was excited, but I was also really nervous because I was afraid that this was going to be an unneeded sequel to The Shining. But I'm here to say that this is actually really good. This is really good. Now, I do have some issues, and I'll get into those, but what did I love about this movie? Let me just say that Mike Flanagan's direction, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing in terms of his directing and his writing, and also his editing. But the way he directs this movie with a lot of he's not going for the usual horror stuff you would see, like CGI, overuse of jump scares, the uninteresting characters. This is a guy who knows his horror, and that's what I really do appreciate with a horror movie director like him and Ari Aster and Jordan Peele. They don't go for today's horror standards. They like to take it back to the good old days when horror didn't have to have so much jump scares. And with this movie, is no obsession. The way he directs this movie, every scene and every part of this movie, it doesn't feel like it's directed by someone else. It doesn't feel half-assed in its directing and the writing. It feels like he really was competent doing what he did best with the directing and the writing. And the script is very well executed. Every line of dialogue, you have to really watch the movie and pay attention to every line of dialogue. You get some great development for Danny Torrance as an adult with his alcoholism and him struggling with childhood trauma. This movie goes into dealing with alcoholism, dealing with the trauma of the events of what happened in your past, and having to find peace. And that's why I really appreciate what Stephen King wrote with the book, even though I never read it, and what Mike Flanagan brought to the table, is that dealing with our childhood traumas and dealing with our past. Because some of us don't want to go back and deal with our past. Some of us thinks it's better to stay away from the past, but that's what I love about this movie. This movie really did what he wanted to do, and what would it be like if Daniel grew up. So I appreciated what the movie was going for in terms of his writing and directing, and also the music by the Newton Brothers, which I'm very happy because they saw what I have to say about this movie when I posted my thoughts on this on Twitter, and the Newton Brothers, they actually saw my tweet and they actually liked it. So I'm just gonna say the music by the Newton Brothers was really great. It's very dark, it's very sinister, it's very horrific, and it does send you into a very creepiness factor. So I gotta say, the music is really well done. I love the music in this movie. I think the music is very well executed, and the music takes a form of his own life as the movie goes along, just like the story and the writing takes a form of life. And also, this movie has some amazing, beautiful cinematography by the cinematographer. Every inch of the cinematography in this movie, it feels well shot. It feels beautiful, and the fact that they're able to recreate certain parts of The Shining the way they do in this movie, while still making it 100% is fresh for source material, I really do like that part, and I have to give credit to where credit is due, because that is actually really good on the filmmaker's part. I gotta say, they did that really well, and I'm very happy with how they did that, because it doesn't come off as a shot-for-shot remake of The Shining. It just goes into its own thing, and that's what I really like about this movie. It went into it was willing to go in its own direction. It was willing to do its own thing. And that's why I really do appreciate in the film. Now, as far as performances, we have to talk about the performances in this movie, because the performances in this movie are really great. Let me just say right now, Ewan McGregor, great actor. He's great in Star Wars prequels. He's great in Moulin Rouge. He was great in Jack the Giant Slayer. He's a great actor in general. And I don't see anybody else playing Danny Torrance than him. He plays this part very well, showing the part of Danny where he is traumatized and the alcoholism part of him, while also showing the part that he wants to help the little girl. And that's what I really like in Ewan McGregor's performance. He really brought it home in terms of his performance. And we have to, I can't review this movie and not talk about Rebecca Ferguson. Anytime Rebecca Ferguson shows up in the movie, it's always fun to see, and in this movie is no exception. And I feel like Rebecca Ferguson, she's pretty underrated in Hollywood right now. She's not getting a lot of work in Hollywood, which is kind of a shame, because I thought with Mission Impossible Rogue Nation she would be in a lot more movies than she is right now. But this movie, she was great as well as the hat. She was attractive, she was scary, she was creepy, and she was frightening when she needs to be. But she could have easily came off as goofy or too over the top, but she easily is one of my favorite movie villains of the year so far, right next to Thanos and right next to Ghidorah from Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I gotta say, she did her job well. And the rest of the cast in this movie is great. Kylie Curran as the little girl Abra, who shares the same powers as Danny. I know people will say child actors are not the greatest, but you know what? When you give them the right material, they can really do great. But if you give them the wrong material, you end up with Jake Lloyd from The Phantom Menace. I'm just saying, Star Wars prequel defenders, I'm just saying. But Kylie Curran, I thought she was great, and I can't wait to see what she does in her career. Cliff Curtis, another underrated actor, he was great. Bruce Greenwood was great. You have the sister of Natalie Allen Lynn, once again Emily Allen Lynn, who was in Replicas, but she was not the problem with that movie. The problem with that movie was just horrible writing. But this movie, I thought the acting in this movie was really great. It was really strong. There wasn't a moment where I didn't feel any scares, and there was never a moment where I wanted to just turn the movie off and say, no, I can't. My issues here, I feel like, okay, the first 20 minutes, it does take a while to get going, and it did end up becoming a little slow pace for me. And I did kind of lose sight of what was going on in the first 20 minutes. And you do see the motivation of Rose the Hat, but it doesn't really go into full detail with her and what the true knight is there wants. But we know what they want. I just feel like there could have been at least a scene explanation or two. But other than that, those are the only two issues I really have, because everything else in this movie stood out to me. So overall, I gotta say, I'm recommending Dr. Sleep. If you like the recent Stephen King adaptations, if you're a fan of The Shining, you're gonna like this movie. If you're not a Stephen King fan, you will not enjoy this movie as much. If you're not a horror fan, you're not gonna like this movie. If you're expecting just a full-on blood and guts horror film, this is not the movie for you. This is a psychological horror film that dares to do something good while also paying respect to its original predecessor and being faithful to its source material. Now, this movie is not going to be for everyone, but Dr. Sleep succeeded in almost everything in terms of great story, great acting, thing from Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, to great story, to great direction, beautiful cinematography, and just being faithful to its original predecessor. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and give Dr. Sleep an Epictastic. So those are my thoughts on Dr. Sleep. Let me know what you guys think of Dr. Sleep down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? And what is your favorite Stephen King movie? What is your favorite Stephen King movie adaptation? For me, my favorite Stephen King movies are, I'm going to have to pick 6 of them before I close out here. My favorite Stephen King movies are The Stand, Storm of the Century, 1408, the remake of Pet Sematary, unpopular opinion, this movie, and both versions of both It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 would be my number one. But yeah, those are, and as far as my least favorite Stephen King adaptation, I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch a few more Stephen King movies before I can claim my least favorite. But at the end of the day, go see this movie, y'all. You're not gonna regret it. This is a great film. I am so happy I got to watch this early, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All my social media links are in the description box down below to all my social media, as well as my official website, and as well as my official merchandise page. So you guys keep it cool and join the Epictasticness.